Greetings from the Jazz Cloud. I'm Richie Zellin, and in today's lesson I want to show you how to derive voicings and fourths from any scale and extract two triads that we can use to comp, in addition to the everyday drop voicings most guitarists use. Now, in case you're wondering what they sound like in the context of a progression, here's a quick sample. So why would you want to learn this as a jazz guitarist? Well, for starters, because we are in the 21st century and these voicings are an integral part of the current jazz idiom. In the late 50s, pianist Bill Evans was heard playing them with Miles on Kind of Blue, and pianist McCoy Tyner relied almost exclusively on them with John Coltrane. And on guitar, Jim Hall was probably among the first to explore them back in the early 60s. And that was over a half a century ago, and most jazz guitar students sound like they're stuck in the 1930s when playing chords. Now, don't get me wrong. It's okay if you want to sound that way on purpose. But if you're going to play post-bop and most of the modal jazz repertoire that is popular today, those older voicings just won't cut it. In this lesson, I'm going to teach you the procedure using a common major 2-5-1 progression. And by the way, this is part one of a two-part series. In part two, I will teach you how to do the same with a minor 2-5-1 progression. So let's begin today with a D Dorian, which corresponds to the 2 minor 7 in the key of C. The first step is to harmonize the 7 notes of the scale by stacking 2 diatonic fourths over each degree. So we can also play it in each set of 3 strings. So if we start here, then we can also do it in the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. The second step is to determine which triads contain the notes that best portray the sound of the given chord, which is a minor 7. In this case, we can first pick the first triad, which consists of the root, the 4th, which is here acting as the 11th, and the flatted 7. Now, the triad that we are going to pair it with always has to be located a step away, and doesn't have to necessarily portray the sound of the chord because it is mainly used to create motion and always resolves back to the initial triad. So here we pick the second triad, which consists of the 2, the 5, and the root. It's a total hybrid because it doesn't contain the 2 most important tones that identify a chord, that is the 3rd and the 7th. But that's okay as long as one of the 2 triads contain them. Now listen to how it sounds in context. Another triad that lends itself to initiate a triad pair for Dorian-related chords is the one starting on the 4th. It is comprised of the 4, which is acting as the 11th, the flatted 7, and the flat 3. And this can be paired with the next triad, which has the 5th as its root, so it consists of 5, 1, and 4. Again, another hybrid, but listen to how it sounds in context followed by the previous pair so you can hear the difference. So those are the 2 triad pairs that best work for the Dorian. But wait, there's more. We can actually invert these chords and come up with some very cool alternative voicings. Let's take the first 2 triads. Here we have the first triad, in the first pair. If we take the lowest note, the root here, and bring it up an octave, we end up with our first inversion. We do the same with the second triad. Bring the lowest note up an octave. We have our first inversion. So, non-inverted, first inversion. Now, if we bring the lowest note in the first inversion up an octave, we get our second inversion. Do the same thing here for the second triad. So we have non-inverted, first inversion, second inversion. Now, let's do the same thing with the second set of triad pairs. So if we take the lowest note here, up an octave, we have our first inversion. Same thing for the second triad. And again, if we take the lowest note in the first triad up an octave, we end up with our second inversion. So, non-inverted, first inversion, second inversion. So now that I've got two sets of triad couplings, let's see what they sound like when comping over a modal tune such as So What by Miles Davis or Impressions by John Coltrane, where the entire progression consists of a couple of minor chords. Pretty cool, eh? The triad pairs really add motion to the otherwise static chord progression. And if the soloist uses some pentatonics like Coltrane did, the quartal voicings really complement their unique sound. And by the way, if you heard me going outside with some of the chords, that's simply done by side slipping a half step below or above and returning to the original triad. Another alternative is to move by stepwise motion to the next chord voicing in a given triad pair. And this will add a whole new dimension to your comping. Let me show you in more detail. The outside effect using these triad pairs and fourths can be achieved using side slipping or a concept known as planing. Let me explain the side slipping. Say you have these two triads. Side slipping consists of simply taking it a half step up or a half step below. So in other words, we're using chromatic neighboring triads. The second concept, known as planing, consists of using all the harmonized triads and fourths related to the given scale. So, and you want to kind of glide across the fretboard using the different triads and also combine it with the side slipping. I've shown you some quartal triad pairs to employ over a minor progression or a 2 minor 7 chord. Next, I want to show you how to do it over the 5-7 or even a dominant 7th based chord progression such as the blues. Before I do, I just want to let you know that I've prepared a comprehensive study package that you can download for this lesson, and it consists of several PDFs with regular notation and tab for not only the examples I've given you here, but 4 additional ones. You also get transcriptions of all the 2-5-1 variations I will show you later in the video, as well as MP3s of each example. And all of this is available for download for a nominal contribution from my website, jazzguitar.richiezelwyn.com/premium. Next, I want to show you the dominant 7 quartal triad pairs. And here's the Mixolydian mode in G, harmonized in diatonic triads and fourths. The single best option for a triad pair here is the triad built over the flatted 7 in combination with the one built over the root. And let me show you what they sound like. So the dominant triad pair in fourths is this one. I'm going to play it up here. So that's the non-inverted pair. If we take the lowest note, this F here, and bring it up here to the 2nd string, we have our first inversion. And we want to do the same with the 2nd triad. Bring the G up to the 2nd string. Our first inversion for the 2nd triad, and they sound together like this. That's dissonant because we have that minor 2nd between the 2 top voices, but it's a nice effect when you hear it used in the context of a progression. So if we bring the lowest voice in the first inversion up to the 1st string, we end up with our 2nd inversion. I love that. Do the same for the 2nd triad in first inversion. I'm going to bring this C up, and we end up with this. There we have the 2 triads in 2nd inversion. So non-inverted, first inversion, 2nd inversion. And now for the final chord in a 2-5-1, the major 7 chord. Here we have the C major scale harmonized in diatonic fourths. Our first option to initiate a triad pair here would be the 2nd triad. And it consists of the 2, which is acting as a 9, the 5, and the root. This is obviously a hybrid because it has no 3rd or 7, but that's okay because it will be coupled with the 3rd triad, which consists of a 3, a 6, and again a 9. A second option is using the triad over the 6th degree to begin our triad pair. And it consists here of a 6, a 9, and a 5, which again is a hybrid. But by following it with the 7th triad, we now have the 7, the 3, and again the 6 acting here as a 13. And let me show you what they sound like with their inversions. So the first triad pair for the 1 major 7 chord, in this case in C, sounds like this, non-inverted. Now the first inversion would be like this. And the 2nd inversion. So, non-inverted, first inversion, 2nd inversion. The second set, non-inverted. First inversion, second inversion. And now we have all the voicings to comp over a major 2-5-1 using exclusively the triad pairs and fourths. So what I'm going to do next is show you 4 variations you can use. In these examples, I mix the different inversions I've shown you for each chord family. And don't forget that the PDF contains an additional 4, so don't miss out on it. I hope you learned something new and practical throughout this lesson, and be sure to be on the lookout for part 2 of this series, through which I will teach you how to do the same for the chords that make up a minor 2-5-1. And it will feature half diminished and altered chords in fourths. As usual, I appreciate your likes and comments and welcome your questions. And if this is your first time on the Jazz Guitar channel, be sure to subscribe so you won't miss out on any of my upcoming lessons. Until we meet again, may peace be with you, and here's another video I think you'll enjoy.